Hello and welcome to Formerly on 4. I'm Jackie Walker, and I was formerly on 4 as an anchor here for 42 years. I do other things now, but I still work for Channel 4. And one of the things I do is to record a podcast like this one. I want you to know the folks who have worked at Channel 4 in the same way that I've known them, because we've had great people here over these 40 years. I want you to meet two of them right now, and they are, you know him, you love him, Call for Action's Al Vaughters, and we know her, we love her, Call for Action's wife, Michele Vaughters. Thank you both very much for being here today. Al, I cannot imagine there's anybody watching who doesn't know who you are and what you did. But for our purposes today, tell us how long you worked at Channel 4 and what you did while you were here.
Okay, so I worked here for just short of 28 years. And for most of those years, all but maybe my first 4 or 3 or 4 years, I did Call for Action, consumer reporting, they called it consumer advocate, but I was really trying to be fair, because if you are a consumer advocate, then they're saying, well, he's already, taking sides. So I tried to do it in a fashion where, there were times, they say the customer is never wrong, but I got some complaints where the customer was wrong. And I would point that out.
But you were always fair about that.
I was always fair to both sides.
Now, I want to introduce Michele, because it may seem unusual to folks that we have asked your spouse to be with us today.
Wouldn't be possible without her.
But there's nobody on earth who knows better what your job has entailed and what it has meant than Michele. And part of the reason is because Michele, I think that's very interesting, is a former reporter herself. Tell us about when you were reporting, Michele.
I began reporting in 1978, and that was after serving as an intern and then an employee of the CBS station in Philadelphia. My goal when they hired me was to allow me to make an audition tape, which they did. And after a year in Philadelphia, I landed in Dayton, Ohio as a reporter.
This is where the plot thickens, because in Dayton, Ohio, you met another reporter by the name of Al Vaughters.
I did. Al Vaughters came to work at my station and tried to interject himself into my life.
And boy, did he ever.
Yes, he did. We were off to a rocky start. Station had a no dating policy.
Oh.
And of course we broke it.
Of course.
We broke it.
In secret. Had to keep it secret.
We fell in love. We were outed by a coworker.
Oh.
And one of us had to leave. At that time.
Wait a minute. Do you know who that was that outed you? And do you hold a grudge to this day? I think I would.
I do know.
Oh.
But it also allowed me to step into another field that I fell in love with. At the time that we were outed, I had 2 job offers. And one was with the largest grocery store chain in the country at the time. Now, in addition, I have to backtrack a little bit. In addition to reporting, I also had a morning talk show. When I left the station and went to work for the Kroger company, it was my idea to I needed to know how we operated as a company. How does a supermarket operate? So I asked to be put in the management training program.
Good.
I went literally from 1 week being on television doing a morning talk show and reporting to weighing produce in the produce department and slicing meat in the deli department, and weighing meat in the meat department. I absolutely loved it. But the ultimate goal was for me to go into public relations.
And And there you were, and here we are today. That really tangential to the kind of thing that Al does as well.
Yes.
I want to jump forward to the fact that you two ended up getting married
We
and
did.
having a beautiful family.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about your family.
Just before we get into that, the clincher, as far as we were concerned, and we've told the story a number of times, when on a Saturday, she had a Saturday assignment, and that was to cover a Ku Klux Klan rally down in Middletown. A Ku Klux Klan rally, and she was just frightened to death.
I didn't have the guts for it.
And so she called in sick, and I arranged to call in and a volunteer to cover the Ku Klux Klan rally. And so I went down there, and it was amazing because there were cops. There were actually more cops than Ku Klux Klansmen there.
Were you? Now, what year is this?
This is about 1980. About 1980.
This is in Dayton,
1981.
Ohio?
This
Right.
was in Dayton,
Okay,
Ohio.
1980, Dayton, Ohio.
Yes.
Were you the only black reporter
Yes, and I got there before everybody else.
And I would have been the only black reporter and female reporter as well.
there? And you ended up covering, she would have been the reporter.
She would
but
have been
you
the
ended
reporter.
up covering
Yes.
for her. Al, I know parts of this story, but tell us, jump to the end of the story with you, eyeball to eyeball with these
Eyeball to
guys.
eyeball to eyeball with these guys. And the picture that you have, I'm actually smiling in the Klansman's face because, and this is a big story for me because here I am, one black reporter facing the Ku Klux Klan here.
Yeah.
And I said, this is going to be a great story. I turned around and my cameraman was back at the car messing around with his camera.
He's supposed to be your backup,
He was
right?
supposed to be I said, this is going to be some great video. And he was just dicking around with his camera back at the car. And so the only really good picture the Cincinnati Enquirer got. And it was the front page of the Cincinnati
Above the
Enquirer.
fold.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
But, and then I was like, if I knew that, I said, maybe I would have stayed back at the car with him. But
Yeah.
I was confident this
And
was
that
going
was
to
the
be
reason
good.
I couldn't cover it. I was given a cameraman that was afraid of his own shadow. So I just had to bail.
Oh, boy.
You know, I knew that I wouldn't be there much longer. So I called in sick, and Al covered for me.
You two
and I
are-
have to say, that kind of sealed the deal.
Yeah,
So
it-
the KKK kind of sealed the deal for us.
How about that?
I won her heart. That's what happened.
With the KKK situation.
Yeah.
Wait, I want to jump back to your family.
sure.
Let's show your family, talk about your family a little bit. You have grown children now.
Yes.
And they are wonderful. And they are Dana and
Dana
Mitch.
and Mitch. Mitch is in Chicago, and Dana is in San Francisco. She is in Silicon Valley. So you can ask anybody who has a child who works in Silicon Valley. You ask them, so what do they do? They do Silicon Valley stuff.
And we've also heard there's a lot of money in it out
Yeah.
there. We know that much, but that's about it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Mitch was he's a teacher, an instructor, a tutor in Chicago, and the guy we're so proud of him because he's
Absolutely.
come such a long way.
Yeah, absolutely.
He recently formed an LLC, and never imagined Mitch doing this, but he actually is sponsoring events for he's targeting teachers, but he sponsors events throughout the year. They are paid events, and he has great ratings. They're called meetups. We had never heard of them. But he started by, targeting, being a teacher, targeting events for teachers. They go to museums, they go to ball games,
Wonderful.
they do all kinds of things throughout the year, especially sports. He usually has some kind of sporting event
Yeah.
going on all year.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so he's doing really
Great
well.
for them. Now, people will also ask you, what have you been doing since you retired, Al? And I know just one thing. I know one thing that you've done that is huge. Tell us about it.
Which one is huge?
Oh.
Give me a hint. Give me a hint.
I gave you
Egypt.
the big build up
Oh,
to
okay.
it.
Oh, the Egypt?
Egypt.
The trip to Egypt? Oh, my gosh.
Have you done something bigger than a trip to Egypt that I should know about?
No, but we're going back.
Yeah, we're going
We're
back.
going back to
Really?
Egypt. We loved it so much.
Really?
We are going back.
It was
Yes.
Michelle's idea.
Wow.
She has been a student of Egypt, of ancient Egypt,
Since sixth grade.
all of her life, going back to the 6th grade. Me, you know, I studied it in history when we had history class
Yeah.
in high school, and then we went to Egypt, and it was just unbelievable. Our next to last
Wow.
day, our next
Oh, look at this. Here's a picture.
I posed on the camel, and then I got off.
That was
no
it.
camel
Just
rides.
for this picture, right?
But this time we're going to ride a camel.
Yeah, we're going to ride this.
And we're going to do a hot air balloon over the pyramids.
Oh.
Yes, hot air
I didn't
balloon.
know there was such a thing, but
Yes.
how glorious that is.
That was
Those
the
are your
that,
pictures
that was
there.
that was the scene.
It was wonderful.
The next to last day that we were there, we all had our tour group had lunch, and I'm sitting there having lunch, and I said, I can't believe
This was
I'm
my
sitting here.
favorite,
I
Abu
can't believe
Simbel.
that I'm sitting here eating lunch with the Great Pyramids of Egypt right
How
in the
about
distance.
that?
It was amazing.
That is
You
amazing.
know, we went for all of the museums and all of the sites, but what we really fell in love with was the people. We fell in love with the people. They were just so kind, so generous. Part of our tour was 4 days cruising the Nile, and I have to tell you, I don't think there was a dry eye amongst us. There were 54 of us, and I don't believe there was a dry eye when we left the boat.
Because you had had such a great time.
We had
is
such
it?
a great time. It was important that we had Egyptologists, and we were very fortunate. Our Egyptologists, who basically have the equivalent of a master's degree in ancient history, were with us 24/7. So, you know, many times when you go, you have an Egyptologist for eight hours a day. Ours were with us 24/7,
Yep.
and that was wonderful. It was a
Stayed with
great
us, yep.
experience. And we're going to have the same too when we go back.
Oh, that is so great. So great. I'm happy for you about that. I want to talk a little, because it's such a far cry from what Al did every day here in Buffalo at News 4. I want to talk a little bit about that. And as you're looking back now, are there stories that stick with you, things that you did that you still think about or have great memories of?
Actually, there's so many. It gets confusing, just trying to remember some of the big ones. But we had the widow whose husband died. Every 2 years he would lease a brand new Mercedes Benz, and she couldn't drive, so he had just signed off on his newest lease for 2 years, and then he passed away. But the leasing agent said, "You know what? He signed it. You got
Wouldn't
to
give her a
keep
break,
up the
yeah.
pay." She couldn't drive the car, but she had to keep up the lease payment. So she called for action, and I tried to make a deal with the dealer about that. And finally, I said, "You know what? We won't even name who the dealer is. Just, do the right thing." And he said, "You know what, Al? Even if you did that, everybody's going to know it's us." So they went ahead and did the right thing. And so we went back and got her reaction to it. She gave me a big hug, and that was just so sweet.
I remember the video of that. I also remember it. And why do I remember these things? Because I'm the one who did the story about you. And when you retired, I was
Yep.
doing your story and looking at a lot of your clippings. I also remember the story of the young man who lived in his family's basement and could not get
he
out
was-
of the basement.
He was a veteran. He was a veteran, and he had been affected by some of the, well, what, not Agent Orange, but it was in their ammunition there. They actually had a nuclear waste that they used in the ammunition. And he went to the VA regularly, and he got to the point where he was in a wheelchair. He couldn't go up and down the stairs. So we did the story on that. We
And he
contacted.
lived in the basement, and he
He
couldn't
lived
get
in
up the
basement.
stairs.
He couldn't
Yeah.
get out. They actually had to lift him up out of the wheelchair and carry him up the stairs. We contacted Senator Schumer's office, and God bless Senator Schumer. He was instrumental in a number of our stories where the government was not doing what they should do. He got involved, and he came here specifically to show that he had gotten a grant so that they could build another room an addition onto the house. So he didn't have to go down into the basement ever again. And you know what? It was just my luck, Jackie. Stories like a lot of my call for action stories, I would be off that day doing something else.
Oh.
So Schumer came to town to make the announcement. I wasn't even at work.
Oh, but okay, you know what? That reminds me, though, of something that I want people to know, and something I know from working with you for how many years were you here? 30-some years?
Well,
Almost
it was almost 28. Yes.
Okay. All those decades, I worked with you, and I worked at night. You were usually here at night, and we're not supposed to be here. You spent so much of your own time
Yep.
in this newsroom after hours, working on stories and things that never even got on the air, things that you did, that you helped
That's
people
true.
with, that nobody knew about.
That's true.
But we knew about them because we were here and we were like, why is Al still here? He's working on these. There's one other person who knew that you were here all that time, and that is Michele.
That's right.
Michele, tell people what were you thinking when he's not coming home every night? He could have been off work at 6:30, 7 o'clock, but he's not getting home till 10.
Well, Jackie, I could always check on him. I knew where he was. It was difficult. I have to be very truthful. It was very difficult, especially when there were events going on at our kids' school.
Yeah.
I also was working full-time. We didn't have Al home to eat dinner with us, so I always put his aside. There were some years, though, when I retired that I would wait for him. But, I put on a few pounds waiting for him because we would end up eating maybe 9:30. I knew how important it was to him. I knew how important it was to the community. There was never a time that we could go out as a family, or even when the kids left, that people didn't come up to him and thank him. We had ladies who would come up and hug him and even kiss him and just thank him. They were so very thankful for what he did for them, for the community. Even now, Jackie, when we go out, there are people who sometimes will pull up a chair
Yeah.
and sit down
Love
and
that.
join us. And also, just getting back to Egypt for a minute, guess what? He was recognized in Egypt.
Oh.
Al was recognized in Egypt by people that we did not know. They were not a part of our group, of course, but
I totally believe that because
Yes.
the same thing happens to me.
Yes.
And you think, how in the world is this happening? Yes, we're everywhere, and Bills fans are everywhere too.
Yes.
But that's a very good point, though. The breadth of coverage and the breadth of what you did, Al. that really struck a chord with people, that they remember, and it meant something to them. But that's the reason I wanted Michele here, for people to know how much of yourself, your family time, you gave to this career.
Yes.
And to this community. And I think the sense of community is what really fuels all of us in this,
Sure.
in
And
this
Jackie, all
occupation.
those years when he was here until 9, 10 o'clock sometimes, it didn't stop there. He would come home and he would eat. And we always watched the late news. And then he went upstairs and he was on the computer doing research for his story for the next day. And sometimes that went until 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. And when you say research, the stories that Al did, and by the way, I'm thinking, there's no overtime. We don't get paid overtime. There was no money for this. But the stories that Al did involved a lot of legalese
Yes.
and, warranties and contracts and
Yep.
things that glaze your eyes over. But
Exactly.
that's what you had to be armed with in order to, solve these problems.
I had to, because a lot of times the stores I was working on, where I was letting them know we're going to do a story on this, and they had contacted a lawyer, and the lawyer would say,
Sure.
"Yo, we're going to take you to court." And I say, "Well, you know what? Take me to court, because I've got the law on my side," and a lot of times got them to back off on that.
But you had to know that. Very quickly, another very important story I want to touch on before we close is Laura Cummings.
Yes.
This was a story that was really kind of outside your area as a consumer reporter, but it was a sense of humanity that really struck you.
Absolutely, Jackie. And the story was so hard to cover. Laura Cummings she was a mentally challenged young woman who lived in North Collins with her family, and she was abused by her family members, sexually abused by her family members. And eventually she was killed, and her mother and her brother were both convicted of murdering her. And we were able to go down there, and the family gave us, the survivors of the family, who their hands were not clean either, but they gave us access to what the house looked like, what she had to live with, what they lived with. And it was just,
It was shocking.
it was terrible. And I would do the story, and I'd come home, and she'd make me take my clothes off, and so she could wash them because things were so bad. And eventually, the state, the county, they changed the way they dealt with folks with disabilities, and so that was it made it worthwhile doing that story.
It's to
And
the
those
credit.
were tough times
Yeah.
for the rest of our family. Al was in he was in a bad way.
In a tough
during that
place
time.
because of that story.
But so were our kids, because our kids had been working with people with special needs. Dana worked with Moving Miracles, and our son with Saba. They felt it, so it really had a tremendous impact on our entire family.
And your family has had a great impact on the community of people with disabilities. There is no question about it. We watched Al's involvement for years with Saba. You were an officer with that group. These are sad stories, and they certainly have touched your heart. I want to close, though, because we're out of time, unfortunately, on a little more lighthearted beat, a story that whenever I think of working with Al, this is a story that jumps to mind. And I hope that some of you remember this, because this was quite a memorable day in Buffalo. And Al and I just happened to be assigned to it, and we were sent out by the zoo where we got word that a gorilla had escaped from its enclosure at the Buffalo Zoo. Here, I want you to watch our report that day. This is a clip of it.
With our team of reporters. Jackie.
Diana, you're not kidding. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody who's passing by us out here near the zoo has something to say about this. It's important to point out, though, the gorilla was never loose on the zoo grounds. It was contained to the gorilla exhibit. And News 4's Al Vaughters was the first to tell all of us just about 12:30 today that the gorilla had been tranquilized and the crisis was over. Now, Al has more on the zookeeper, the female zookeeper who was bitten by this gorilla.
Well, Jackie, if there was one act of heroism or courage under fire that most likely kept this ordeal from getting a lot worse than it did, it was the...
We just had a fellow, I don't know, did you see him in a gorilla costume right behind us here while we're doing our live shot?
Everybody's a comedian, right?
Everybody's a comedian with this story because it had a good ending, which we're happy about. As we've mentioned, that was our big moment at the Buffalo Zoo, Al.
That just shows when you're really concentrating on getting the story right, the whole world is just in the background.
Neither one of us, not Al.
We did not realize the guy was back there.
We did not know that he was back there in that gorilla costume. But I want to tell you something else funny about this. That man in that costume, I saw him later without his costume. He came up to me and he apologized profusely for what he did. He was afraid that he had scared us or that he had ruined our report or whatever. He was very kind, and I totally forgave him. But what a wild thing to happen to us.
Did you tell him that he actually added to the story?
Yeah, because the gorilla never got out of the zoo. The gorilla was safely enclosed in there. But anyway, it was a fun time. This has been fun with both of you. And, of course, we could talk for another hour.
Yes, we could.
We have a lot to
At
say.
least, yeah.
No question about it. Al, on behalf of the News 4 staff and Michele, I thank you for all that you have given to this station and this community. It has meant a lot to us and to everyone watching.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
Jackie.
Our pleasure.
Great to
Our
see you.
pleasure.
Great to see you. I want to thank you for watching. If there is a former Channel 4 staffer that you would like to know more about, drop me a line. You can reach me at jackie.walker@wivb.com. jackie.walker@wivb.com. I want to thank you very much for watching us here on Formerly on 4. It's been our pleasure.